Welcome back to Fabricating Awesome Stuff. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how I adjusted the wastegate valve on my AeroVee Turbo engine in order to be able to generate full power. So let me know what you think in the comments. Also, remember to like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of these updates. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and thanks for watching. I've run my AeroVee Turbo engine a number of times now. And in the process of tuning the aero injector, you're supposed to run full throttle and see 3,000 static RPM and 40 inches of manifold pressure. And you use 40 inches of manifold pressure for takeoff, and you can back that off after about 2 minutes of flying. Now, so far, I'm able to get my 3,000 RPM, but I've only been able to get about 36.5 inches of manifold pressure. So I was thinking that the wastegate valve, which is this unit right here, was maybe opening too soon. So in order to make sure it was completely closed, I did shorten this shaft about a turn in order to be sure there was a little bit of preload on that wastegate valve so that it was completely closed when the engine's idling. Ran it again, and I was only able to get about 36.5 inches, so that didn't solve the problem. Since putting preload on the shaft didn't make any difference, the next thing I wanted to do was confirm whether or not the turbocharger itself was producing enough boost. And so I took safety wire and I wired this wastegate shut so that it could not open, and then I ran the engine again. And this time I couldn't get to full throttle because as I approached full throttle, it went past 40 inches. I saw 42 inches and backed it off, so I didn't want to overboost. And so that confirms that the turbocharger is definitely producing more than enough boost, and it has to be the wastegate is causing the issue. Now, after researching this Kinugawa brand wastegate valve, I discovered that this is adjustable, and the way you adjust it is by changing the internal spring, because the manifold pressure has to overcome that spring in order to open the wastegate valve. And on Amazon, I was able to find a set of 8 springs of various tensions. It starts from the lowest tension all the way up to the highest tension, and they're compatible with this Kinugawa wastegate. And so there's a witness hole in the side here, and I'm looking in at that spring. I can see that it's colored white, so I'm assuming that means it's the white spring that is the least amount of tension. So my plan is I'm going to go ahead and swap out this white spring for the next spring up, which would be kind of a light blue spring, and then we'll run it again and see if that makes a difference. So we have to remove these 6 screws, and because it's under spring tension, I'm just going to back them off a little at a time. And then we'll change the spring and see what happens. Hopefully that'll solve my issue. Okay, I'm able to hold the pressure with my hand, so it's not a terrible amount of spring pressure at this moment. Okay. So, got this piston here. Okay, so it looks like the spring has to slip out through here, so we need to take this shaft apart just to be able to slide it out. So back off the jam nut. Okay, now this should come out this way. Slide this boot off of here. Washer, spring. So it's a little bit different. Okay, this white spring is a little bit longer than the one that came with it, but they feel like they're about the same tension. I'm going to go with the next one up, which is a little stronger. And so this goes on here, and a washer, and this little boot goes back into the unit, and the diaphragm goes on top of the piston, and then this hose bib goes towards the witness hole there, and then we'll put the screws back in. So I'll put a little tension on here, get the screws started. Get a couple threads there and go on the other side and do the same. A few threads started, and we'll do the same all the way around. Okay, have all the screws started. Now we'll just kind of go crisscross pattern and tighten them all. Okay. Put the jam nut on. And then we'll adjust this once we put it back on, so we have a slight preload once we put it back on the engine. Okay, we have results. After swapping out the white spring for the light blue spring on the turbo actuator and reinstalling it on my AeroVee Turbo engine, I did a run-up and I easily obtained 3,000 static RPM and 40 inches of manifold pressure. Now, at least at sea level, it's possible to go beyond 40 inches, so on takeoff, I'm going to need to manually limit the power to 40 inches for the first 2 minutes. During the test flying process, I may make some further adjustments to the wastegate valve, but at least at this point, I'm generating full takeoff power so that this should be ready to fly. So I'll keep you posted on this, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for watching.